Las Vegas, often nicknamed Sin City, is one of the world's most iconic destinations for gambling, entertainment, and nightlife. Beyond the dazzling lights and slot machines, the history of Las Vegas and its world-famous Strip is a fascinating tale of ambition, vice, glamour, and reinvention. From its humble desert origins to its modern-day status as a global tourism powerhouse, Las Vegas has a story as colorful as its neon signs. One of the most transformative moments in Las Vegas history came in 1931, when Nevada legalized gambling. This was largely a response to the Great Depression, as the state sought ways to generate revenue. That same year, construction began on the Hoover Dam, which brought thousands of workers and potential gamblers to the region. Small gambling parlors popped up along Fremont Street, which would become the city's original casino corridor, known today as downtown Las Vegas. While Fremont Street thrived, a stretch of highway just south of the city began to attract attention. This area would become known as the Las Vegas Strip, although it's technically located outside the city limits in unincorporated Clark County. The first casino on what is now the Strip was El Rancho Vegas, opened in 1941. It offered a Western-themed resort experience with 63 rooms and a full-service casino. The idea of combining lodging, dining, and gambling in one property was innovative at the time and laid the groundwork for future mega-resorts. In the 1940s and 1950s, organized crime syndicates saw the potential of Las Vegas and began investing heavily in casinos. The most famous of these ventures was the Flamingo Hotel, opened in 1946 by gangster Bugsy Siegel, backed by the infamous Murder Incorporated. Although Siegel was assassinated in 1947, his vision of a glamorous, luxury casino resort lived on. This period marked the beginning of Las Vegas's golden age, with properties like the Sands, Tropicana, and Stardust opening their doors. These resorts attracted Hollywood stars and wealthy tourists. The Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., etc., became fixtures in Vegas nightlife, often performing in casino showrooms. Fun facts about Las Vegas casinos and the Strip. Not actually in Las Vegas. The famous Las Vegas Strip is not within the city limits of Las Vegas. It lies in Paradise and Winchester, two unincorporated towns in Clark County. World's brightest spot. Las Vegas is considered the brightest spot on Earth when viewed from space due to the massive concentration of lights on the Strip. Themed resorts galore. At one point, the Strip was home to themed hotels resembling Venice, the Venetian, Paris, Las Vegas, New York, New York, and even ancient Rome, Caesar's Palace. World's largest observation wheel. The High Roller, located at the LINQ, is one of the tallest observation wheels in the world at 550 feet high. Casino once had a $1 million slot machine jackpot. In 2003, a 25-year-old software engineer won $39.7 million on a megabucks slot machine at the Excalibur, the largest slot jackpot in Las Vegas history. Casino carpets are designed to keep you alert. The wild, often ugly carpet patterns in casinos are intentionally designed to keep you awake and moving. Some say it's to prevent loitering. Others argue it keeps gamblers alert. No clocks or windows. Casinos are intentionally designed without clocks or windows to make it easier for guests to lose track of time and stay longer. More than gambling. Today, less than 35% of Las Vegas resort revenue comes from gambling. The rest comes from hotel rooms, food and beverages, entertainment and shopping. The Strip once had pirate battles and volcano eruptions. The Mirage's volcano erupted nightly, now retired. And Treasure Island once featured full-scale pirate ship battles in front of the hotel. The Luxor's beam is visible from aircraft. The Luxor Hotel Pyramid emits the strongest beam of light in the world. On clear nights, it can be seen up to 275 miles away by aircraft. The Last Roll. A Las Vegas gambler's tale. It was 2:37 a.m. on a Tuesday in June when James "Jimmy" Russo walked into the Bellagio with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a plan in his mind. Not a good plan, maybe not even a smart one, but a plan all the same. 48, Jimmy was no tourist. He wasn't here for selfies with Elvis impersonators or overpriced mojitos at poolside cabanas. He was a real gambler, one of the few left from an older breed. He had played in smoky backrooms in Atlantic City, whispered bets at racetracks, and chased lucky streaks from Reno to Macau. But Vegas was always the endgame. The stakes. The duffel bag held $98,000 in cash, everything Jimmy had left. His condo in Florida had been sold, his retirement drained, and even the Rolex on his wrist wasn't really his anymore. It was collateral for a short-term loan. The money had come from a mix of savings, bad decisions, and favors he probably wouldn't be able to return. But Jimmy wasn't reckless. Not entirely. This wasn't his first rodeo. He had a system. Blackjack, basic strategy, card counting, not just dreams and luck, but math and memory. He'd practiced for years, reading books by Edward Thorpe, memorizing charts, drilling decks until his fingers cramped. He believed if he stuck to the plan, if he played perfectly, the edge, however slight, would be his. Vegas memory lane. The strip was quieter midweek, but not empty. Neon reflections shimmered off the marble floors. Jimmy walked past the fountains and crystal chandeliers, heading straight for the high-limit lounge. The room smelled like money and nervous ambition. Men in tailored suits sat alongside tourists turned dreamers. The quiet shuffle of cards was interrupted only by the occasional cheer or groan. He bought in for $50,000. The dealer, a Filipino woman named Rosa who had worked in the same spot for over a decade, didn't blink. She'd seen bigger bets and worse odds. "Let's make it a good night, Jimmy," she said, recognizing him. Vegas dealers always remember the big fish, or the ones who swim upstream. Jimmy smiled. One way or another. Run hot, run cold. For the first hour he was running hot. The cards seemed to listen. He doubled down, split aces, pressed his bets, and turned $50,000 into $74,000. It wasn't quite a miracle, but it was the start he needed. Then, as always, the tide turned. A 5-minute break turned into 30 minutes of bad luck. Dealer 20s, Jimmy's bust, soft 17ths that never quite worked out. The bankroll slipped, then it fell. By 5:30 a.m., Jimmy was down to $16,000. His fingers trembled as he shuffled his chips. Sleep deprivation didn't help. Neither did the creeping knowledge that if he lost this, he had nothing left. Not just nothing in the casino, nothing at all. He stood up, walked to the bar, ordered a coffee. Black, no cream, no luck. One last shot. He returned to the table. "Final hand," he said, pushing all $16,000 forward. The pit boss wandered over, interested now. Rosa raised her eyebrows but dealt the cards without comment. Jimmy's hand. A 10 and a 6. Dealer's up card, 5. "Stand," Jimmy said, stomach churning. Rosa revealed her whole card, a 3, then a 2, and finally a 10. 20. Jimmy stood still, staring at the table. The chips were swept away. He said nothing, just nodded slowly, more to himself than anyone else, and walked out of the lounge, duffel bag empty. Jimmy spent the morning walking the strip. He sat on a bench near Caesar's Palace, next to a man feeding pigeons. The man was telling a story about how he once hit a royal flush at Bally's in 1992. The gambler who beat roulette. A real Las Vegas story. In the glittering world of Las Vegas, where fortunes are won and lost with the spin of a wheel, few stories stand out as much as that of Ashley Revell. His tale is one of audacity, risk, and the pursuit of an extraordinary gamble that captivated the world. The man behind the bet. Ashley Revell, a 32-year-old Englishman from Kent, was an ordinary man with an extraordinary idea. In 2004, he made a decision that would etch his name into the annals of gambling history. Revell sold all his possessions, including his clothes, to raise $135,300. This sum was to be his entire life savings, and he intended to wager it all on a single spin of a roulette wheel. His choice of the Plaza Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas was deliberate. The casino offered a single zero roulette wheel, which statistically offers better odds than the more common 00 wheels found elsewhere. With his money in hand and a heart full of nerves, Revel approached the roulette table. The fateful spin. On April 11, 2004, the world watched as Revel placed his entire stake on red. The ball spun, the wheel clicked, and time seemed to stand still. When the ball finally settled, it landed on 7, a red number. Revel had doubled his money, walking away with $270,600. The event was not just a personal triumph but a media sensation. The gamble was filmed by Sky One as part of a reality miniseries titled Double or Nothing. The footage captured the tension, the cheers, and the disbelief of onlookers, turning Revel into an overnight sensation. Life after the bet. With his winnings, Revel ventured into the online poker business, founding Poker UTD. However, the company faced challenges and eventually went out of business in 2012 due to controversies over frozen accounts in the US. Despite this setback, Revel's gamble remained a testament to the allure and unpredictability of Las Vegas. In 2019, to commemorate the 15th anniversary of his legendary bet, the Plaza Hotel and Casino launched the Red 7 promotion. The casino set up a new roulette table where guests received a $25 promotional chip every time the ball landed on the lucky Red 7. Revel returned to Las Vegas to participate in the celebration, placing a ceremonial bet. While the stakes were not as high as before, the event rekindled the magic of that fateful day in 2004. The legacy of the gamble. Ashley Revel's story is more than just about winning a bet. It's about the audacity to risk everything on a single moment. His gamble highlighted the timeless allure of Las Vegas, the city where fortunes can change in an instant. While Revel's tale is unique, it echoes the experiences of other gamblers who have taken significant risks in the pursuit of fortune. For instance, Richard Uretsky, a renowned researcher, used his knowledge to exploit imperfections in roulette wheels, winning over $1.2 million before casinos adapted their equipment to prevent such exploits. Similarly, Nico Tosa, a gambler known for his keen observation, identified a biased roulette wheel at the Ritz Casino in London. By noticing subtle imperfections, he was able to predict the ball's landing zone, leading to significant wins. These stories, like Revel's, underscore the unpredictable nature of gambling and the fine line between fortune and misfortune. Conclusion. Ashley Revel's legendary roulette bet serves as a reminder of the risks and rewards inherent in gambling. His story continues to inspire those who dream of turning a single moment into a life-changing event. In Las Vegas, where the next spin could be the one that changes everything, Revel's gamble remains a symbol of boldness and the pursuit of fortune. The Last Run, a Las Vegas Gamblers, their rival. In late summer of 2011, the neon lights of Las Vegas pulsed with heat and promise. Joe "Lucky" Larrabee stepped off the Greyhound at the South Strip transfer terminal. His duffel bag slung low over one shoulder. 45 years old, wiry and sharp-eyed, Joe wasn't here for the shows or the buffets. He was back for one last run. He'd made his name at the poker tables of Binion's in the late 90s, when the old-school grinders still ran downtown and the Strip was just beginning its transformation into a playground for tourists. He had been a fixture at high-stakes limit games, a man who could count cards, read a room, and hold his nerve when the pot swelled past what most people made in a year. But Vegas, like poker, gives and takes. And by 2006, Joe had lost everything. Bankroll, condo, girlfriend, and self-respect. He vanished from the city, whispering something about getting clean, and hadn't been back since. Now he was here for the Mirage Summer Series. A few old contacts had tipped him off. Some big cash games were brewing, with rich whales flying in from Macau and Dubai. Joe wasn't planning to go broke playing $1/$2 at the MGM. He wanted blood. He wanted redemption. Old faces, new rules. Inside the Mirage, the poker room had changed. Sleeker, smaller, and more tourist-friendly. Gone were the smoky backroom $100/$200 limit games. Joe found a $25/$50 no-limit table, sat down with $10,000, and bought the first round of drinks. The players glanced at him, half curious, half dismissive. He liked it that way. 2 hours in, Joe had doubled his stack. He was calm, methodical. He folded big hands, bet junk, and called down bluffs with surgical precision. Then he saw him. Big Ray, a whale from Texas who used to crush baccarat and occasionally wandered into poker games thinking his money could buy skill. Joe watched as Ray dropped $30,000 in under 45 minutes. Then, as if summoned by some karmic force, Ray asked the dealer to open a new $100/$200 game. Joe followed. The high-stakes room smelled of leather and desperation. Joe's buy-in was matched by 4 others. Ray, a cocky crypto kid from Palo Alto, a quiet Filipino pro known only as Arvin, and a woman in a red dress who went by the name Morgan. Joe had seen Morgan before, back when she played in the Bellagio's private room under a different name and a different hair color. She was dangerous. The game was brutal. Ray overbet everything, chasing draws with tens of thousands like it was Monopoly money. The crypto kid played solver style, trying to out-GTO everyone and failing. Arvin barely moved. Morgan played selectively, trapping with the patience of a snake. Joe, however, was in his element. By dawn, his $10,000 had become $85,000. He cashed out, tipped the dealer $500, and walked to the coffee shop to calm his nerves. A young waitress gave him a look. Rough night, Joe smiled. Best one I've had in 10 years. Backroom deals. The next night, Joe was invited to a private game in a penthouse suite at Aria. These weren't legal poker tables. They were the kind of games run by off-duty pit bosses and funded by oil money, crypto millionaires, and shady hedge funders. Rake was 5%, uncapped, and cash ruled. Joe had always avoided these games. The danger wasn't just in the hands, it was in the company. But desperation breeds courage. He needed a bankroll big enough to walk into Bobby's room at Bellagio and take a seat without being laughed out of it. In 6 hours, he won $120,000. Ray was there again, more drunk than before. Morgan kept staring at him, half smiling. She folded to his bluffs. Twice he folded to hers. By sunrise, the suite smelled of spilled whiskey, stale cigars, and crushed egos. Morgan stopped him at the elevator. "You're playing clean," she said. "But this city doesn't like clean comebacks." "I'm not here for the city," Joe replied. "I'm here for the game." Guffaw. 3 days later, Joe was up nearly $400,000. He had booked a suite at the Wynn, eaten steak at SW, and even walked past the blackjack tables without flinching. For the first time in years, he felt whole again. Then came the storm. Started at Bellagio, a $300/$600 game. The biggest he'd played in years. He bought in for $100,000. Morgan was there again, along with 2 Chinese businessmen, a known card mechanic from Florida, and a local pro who'd once been accused of marking cards but never proven. Joe lost a big pot with pocket kings against a runner-runner flush. Then he lost a bigger one when he misread a bluff from Morgan. In 4 hours, he was down $130,000. Tilt set in. He rebut. Then Ray walked in and dumped $200,000 on the table like it was a bar tab. The game exploded. Joe played tighter, but it was too late. The momentum was gone. By 3 a.m. he was out. He walked through the Bellagio Fountain Plaza alone, past tourists and drunk college kids. His bag lighter and shoulders heavier. The hustle. Joe checked into the Flamingo the next day. Cheap room. No frills. His bankroll was down to $20,000. He did what grinders do when they're hurt. He hit the low stakes. Back to $10/$20 at Caesars. $5/$10 at the Venetian. Slowly the rhythm came back. One night, at 4 a.m., he caught a group of frat guys splashing around at a $25/$50 table. Over 5 hours, he made $7,000 bluffing them blind. He paid his room cash and got breakfast for the whole table. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. That's what Vegas does. Humbles you. It strips you down until there's nothing left but the game. And if you're lucky, really lucky, it lets you back in. The final table. It all came down to one game. Morgan called him personally. Penthouse game. Win. No rate. Minimum buy-in, $200,000. Joe had $160,000 to his name. He borrowed the rest from an old contact, an ex-casino host who now ran a shady crypto venture. Pay me back in 72 hours, the man said. Or I send someone to collect. Joe nodded. It wasn't the first time he'd danced this dance. The room was quiet when he arrived. No Ray, no tourists, just killers. Morgan, Oven, a hedge fund guy from New York, and a silent Frenchman known only as Lulu. The game started slow, then picked up speed. Bluffs flew, tempers flared. Then came the hand. Joe had pocket jacks. The flop came J spade suit, 8 diamond suit, 6 heart suit. He bet big. Morgan raised. Joe called. The turn was a 3 club suit. You checked. She bet again, heavy. He tanked, then pushed all in. She paused for a long time, then called. Joe flipped his set. Morgan turned over 9 spade suit, 10 spade suit. Open-ended straight draw. The river. 7 heart suit. Break. Joe's stomach dropped. He had her. And Vegas took it away again. Dramatic. He paid the loan the next day with the last of his savings. Took a bus to Reno, thinking maybe the smaller games would be quicker. He never saw Morgan again, or Arvin, or Ray. But months later, he heard through the grapevine. The Frenchman was arrested in Monaco. Ray went broke betting on cricket. Morgan had retired to Costa Rica, some say. Others swore she was still in Vegas, hiding in plain sight. As for Joe, he plays $2/$5 now. Drinks his coffee black. Tips Welsh. Doesn't talk much. But if you ask the old healers and Indians of the graveyard crew at Orleans, they'll tell you stories about the time Lucky Larrabee came back to Vegas and nearly conquered it. It's the last thing that Las Vegas shimmered like a mirage under the desert sun, promising fortunes and disguising heartbreak beneath its neon glow. Inside the velvet-lined halls, the middle-aged high-stakes pickle room. Fine events. No clock. No windows. Only chips clacking like castanets, and the occasional gasp when someone else speaks. Vincent Rourke had been called many things. Genius, addict, myth. Some whispered that he once won $10 million in a night, then vanished for a year. Others claimed he'd beaten a Saudi prince in a private baccarat match and walked out with a diamond the size of a golf ball. All Vincent cared about was the next bet. That night, he strolled into the Bellagio wearing a tailored black suit and a pair of vintage Persol sunglasses, even though it was nearly midnight. His hair was peppered with gray, combed back with the care of a man who knew appearances mattered. A beautiful blonde clung to his arm, a professional companion named Lola with a laugh like crushed ice and eyes too smart for the job. "Mr. Rourke," said Marcus, the casino host, smiling with reverence as he approached. "Your usual suite is ready. We've also reserved your preferred table in the poker salon." "Good," Vincent said. He handed Marcus a $1,000 chip like it was a toothpick. Setup. The room was thick with tension and cologne. The buy-in was $500,000. Vincent sat down with his trademark indifference. Across from him was Dmitry Volkov, a Russian tech billionaire whose stare could boil vodka. The others at the table, hedge fund sharks, retired basketball stars, and at least one sheik, were mere spectators in this duel. Vincent was quiet for the first half hour, folding, sipping Macallan 25, observing. He let Dmitry build his ego, flashing monster hands and raking in pots. Then, when the timing was right, Vincent struck. A slow play on a straight flush. Dmitry went all in with a king-high full house. Snap call. Vincent collected $1 million in chips without cracking a smile. "You got lucky," Dmitry grunted, lighting a cohiba. "I don't believe in luck," Vincent replied. The debt. 3 hours later, Vincent had turned his $500,000 into $3.7 million. He stood to leave, but Dimitri stopped him with a smirk. Double or nothing, Dimitri said. One hand. Texas Hold'em. You deal. Vincent hesitated. Not because he feared losing, but because something smelled off. Dimitri wasn't a fool. He'd made his billions writing algorithms that predicted market behavior down to the nanosecond. Still, ego was a dangerous drug, and Vincent was already high. He sat back down. The dealer shuffled and spread the cards. Dimitri bet everything he had. $3.7 million. Vincent matched it without blinking. The flop came. Ace of hearts, 10 of spades, queen of diamonds. Vincent glanced at his whole cards. Jack and king of hearts. He had the Broadway straight. The turn, 9 of hearts. His straight stayed, but now he had a flush draw too. The river, ace of diamonds. A pair on the board. Still good. Vincent flipped his cards. Straight to the ace. Dimitri smiled and turned over ace and 10. Full house. Silence. Then the clink of chips sliding away. Vincent's heart didn't race. Never did. But he felt something deeper, something harder to name. Not regret, not fear. Just a cold awareness of having underestimated a man who'd spent his life out thinking other predators. Plan. The next morning, Lola found him sitting on the edge of their penthouse balcony, shirtless, staring out at the hazy sprawl of Vegas. I've seen you lose before, she said, lighting a cigarette. But you've never looked like this afterward. He said nothing. She walked over, draped a silk robe over his shoulders. Was it your last bullet? He nodded. In this town, yeah. She sat beside him. You still have your reputation. That's worth something. To who? Casino owners. Rich marks. That doesn't pay the markers I owe. How much? $2 million. Due Friday. She whistled, but then Lola smiled. I might know someone. Someone who likes guys with your... Resume. The offer. The man Lola introduced him to was named Elijah Voss. No one knew where his money came from. He didn't gamble. He didn't drink. He watched. They met in a private suite at the Cosmopolitan. Elijah was surrounded by bodyguards and silence. I hear you're short $2 million, Elijah said. I hear you're looking for someone who can do things the legal system can't, Vincent countered. That made Elijah smile faintly. There's a man in town. Plays under the name Dr. J. He's been laundering money through poker tournaments, using mules to win fake games. We need someone to break the system. Quietly. You want me to beat him. I want you to humiliate him. On live stream. Enough to collapse the shell companies behind the act. And I'll make your debts disappear. Vincent's lips twitched. You sure this is about money? It's about control. Are you in the game? The match was held at the Wynn, in a private streamed invitational. Dr. J was a charismatic, trash-talking showman. He wore Versace and dripped with stolen confidence. The buy-in was $250,000. Elijah fronted it. Vincent arrived late. The poker world had tuned in, wondering if the ghost of Las Vegas could still haunt the game. Within the first hour, Vincent took down half the table with surgical precision. He played unpredictably, aggressive, then passive, folding monsters, calling bluffs, making the audience doubt their own instincts. Dr. J, however, was holding strong, winning small pots, flirting with the cameras, until Vincent changed tempo. With Queen 9 of spades, Vincent slow played a flush. Dr. J overbet the river with a set. Vincent called and showed his hand. Table gasped. Dr. J cracked. He started making bad moves. Bluffing when he shouldn't. Calling when he couldn't afford it. Vincent bled him slowly. Over hours. He didn't go for the kill, he made him suffer. Finally, with only $20,000 left in chips, Dr. J shoved all in. Vincent called with ace-jack. Dr. J had a pair of threes. The board ran out dry. Game over. The aftermath. Elijah kept his word. The debt vanished. Dr. J was quietly blackballed from every major poker circuit. Within weeks, his shell corporations were frozen by federal agencies. Vincent, however, didn't stick around. Some say he moved to Macau. Others swear they saw him in Monte Carlo, betting on red after 3 dry martinis. Few believe he finally quit. And every so often, a casino manager will swear that Vincent Rourke walked through their doors, sat down at a high-stakes table, and whispered, "Deal me in."